How's it? I'm Alex McCauley.
I'm Max Fosberg.
And this is Excuse the Intermission, a discussion show surrounding weapons. The second feature film from writer-director Zach Cregger is now out, generating quite the buzz in the movieverse. So Max and I will talk about the film's critical and financial success, along with what we thought of the movie and where it ranks amongst our favorites of the year. That spoiler-heavy conversation is on the other side of this break. All right, Max, how are we doing today, bud?
I'm tired. Very tired. I've been working on a second feature I was able to jump on. Gosh, when was that? The middle of or beginning of August, I guess. End of July. And this past week, like every day on set has been splits where you start at like 2 or 3 p.m. and you go till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So my mind's a little mush, but happy to be here and found time to see this movie twice.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, so I have a question going back to the hours. Now, I think most people understand that working in the film industry is not your typical 9 to 5. When you were back in film school, though, if you could kind of take yourself back, is that something that they talked to you about? Like, I'm sure there's really no way to prep for, like a overnight shoot or anything like that. But is that something that is talked about when, I don't know, when people are trying to figure out if this is something for them or not? Like, is that almost like not are you given a warning, but you know what I mean? Like, does that get discussed?
Yeah, absolutely. And from first quarter, I mean, I remember, it's nailed into like these shifts are going to be 12-hour shifts. There's going to be it's going to be at weird times of the day. It's 12 hours on, you get an hour lunch usually. But and you're moving, you're constantly it doesn't really matter what position you are. Like you're on your feet and you're you're using your body and your energy constantly. So it definitely was always talked about for sure, especially in indie film too.
So is it what you thought it would be then?
It is extremely hard. Everything in film school was extremely easy. In the real world, it is twice as hard. It's you're getting, even though you're putting in 12 hours, until 4 a.m. in the morning, you're still getting paid. If you do the math, you're still not, you're not making, especially in indie film, you're not making the celebrity money, right? The glamorous big budget movie money. So it's a grind. But it's only a month. How many months has it been? 6 months maybe. 6 months into this industry. So it's a grind. I'm extremely lucky, to have been on 2 features back to back this summer in a new place and with new people. And I've been extremely lucky to work with the people that I've worked with, right? Like no one's been a dick or an absolute psychopath. But yeah, it's such an amazing thing. I think I don't know if I said this on the pod recently, but I've been saying it a lot on set that filmmaking is like the ultimate team sport. Like everyone's got their job. You got to keep your optimistic vibes up, right? You got to keep the vibes good, because if one person starts to dip, then like everyone,
there goes the locker room.
Yeah. So it's been a really great experience so far. But very tired.
So sorry to just bombard you with questions,
no,
but
you're good.
Because you've had the luxury and the good fortune to be on 2 features back to back in this short amount of time, do you feel like that's sort of prepping you for this almost like no strings attached mentality when it comes to your films, or the films that you're working on and your given role on those movies? Whereas like in film school, you're so attached to everything
Right.
you're doing, right? And it feels really personal, and I'm sure that's great. And obviously you want to work towards a place where like maybe you are the director, you are the screenwriter, and you're on set just kind of like supervising or maybe in a producer role, and it still feels really personal. But as you're becoming more worksman oriented, do you feel like that's maybe getting a little easier, or how has that transition been?
Yeah, yeah. I, I I think yeah, it's definitely less romanticized, and because it is such a grind and really, you know, you have to jump from gig to gig, and again, you're either like the first film I was on, we were on for 28 days, and you really within like the first like 14 about the 14th or 15th day is like when you really start to like build, I feel like, deep bonds with people on set and become
Sure.
friends with people on set. And so in film school, we're in class and then we're also making films. So we spent a lot of time together. So there is a deepness there. But like this set, that I'm currently on, it's 15 days. So, right at the end is like when we're gonna start to be like, oh man, like we're
We're
really good
tight
friends.
now.
And
Yeah.
then everyone just, kind of disappears into the smoke. And maybe you'll work with them again down the line, but like,
Mhm.
it's all about finding that next job. So like we kind of have to all like, hit the ground, hit the pavement again. So it's a really interesting thing about film because you do spend a lot of hours and time with people, and again, like build friendships and stuff like that. And then once, it's picture wrap, like it just kind of everyone just kind of goes their own way, and maybe you'll see someone down the road again. But especially in a town like LA, like, there's I've already experienced the whole like, yeah, let's hang out. I want to hang out. And then, you don't hear from them for 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and LA is a very busy town, and I feel like just that's part of the industry as well. Like, yes, we should get together, but oh, I'm jumping on another gig, and I'm dead the 2 days that I'm not on, and then the other days that I am on, I'm working, 3 to 4, and
Yeah.
so there's just no so I'm gonna be sleeping until 2, and then, it's just it's wild. It's pretty crazy. Um but yeah, I think I've definitely, like, I care about these films. I want these films. I want the director to accomplish what they set out to do, and I want it to be successful. I want, one day to see these films, but at the same time, like, I'm not, you know, yeah, I'm not. I can't wait to see something. Like, it's a job, and we're on it, and
Yep.
it's good experience.
Well, great job on Maxie's School Corner today.
How are
So,
you? How are you doing?
we're in the 11th hour of summer, which
Yeah,
is
man, it's coming to an end. I can't
it
believe it.
is. I have a couple of trainings later this week. We're recording this on a Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, I have some trainings, and then boy, I'll tell you, this movie that we're going to talk about today, in a weird way. I mean, you know me, you've known me a long time. Got me excited to get back in the school building.
Perfect back to school.
It,
Perfect
it
back to school film.
It kind of is. I wondered if that was part of the marketing where they were like, this is going to be an August release because not only can it maybe kind of like monopolize the corner and sort of take over the culture for a couple of weeks, but just because it does have so much to do with like an elementary class,
Mm.
um, should we roll it out right before school comes back? So couldn't help but think of that. But yeah, so we're just, I kind of want to shake up my days, give myself those weird schedules, those weird wake up times, try to get naps in middle of the day, stay up late, sleep in, do all those things now, while I still have the opportunity. So hopefully I can still enjoy these last couple of days before the weeks do start to get broken up with trainings and back to school events and stuff like that. So yeah, we're doing good. Thanks for asking. All right. So in the meantime, while you were maybe dead, but had enough energy to drag yourself out to the theater, and then myself on a Sunday night 8 o'clocker, like this is a underrated movie time. Sunday night 8 o'clocker. Let me tell
That
you.
sounds great.
Yeah, it's kind of dead. It was
Yeah.
nice. We both went out and saw Weapons. Now, Weapons, new film from Zach Cregger, the director of Barbarian. Barbarian was such a phenomenon when it came out. And you know, I kind of want to start by talking about that movie a little bit, because when that film dropped, it wasn't exactly one of these like day and day releases that we saw during the pandemic. However, I do feel like it was a big deal in the theater, and then it was on demand for people to view at home very shortly thereafter. And so like I can think, I don't know if I can think of one person who at least like dabbles in casual movie going that didn't see Barbarian and really, really enjoyed it. Is that kind of your experience with that film? And like, just kind of talk about when that movie came out and how you feel like it landed.
Yeah, I took our buddy Tim to see Barbarian in theaters, which was like the first movie he had seen in theaters in like 3 or 4 years. And I remember we both went in very cold, had no idea, just knew it was a scary movie. And yeah, I remember being blown away by it. Now I also remember criticizing it a lot. Like the third act gets a little cartoony, and I think that kind of became the general thought, that like the first two acts are so well done and so tightly put together, and great tension. And you know, it was the whole like Bill Skarsgård is in this, but then he's
playing
taken
two
out.
type, but then it's against type.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a great bait and switch. And Justin Long, who, you know, again, it kind of cemented, not that he wasn't cemented already, but like really like he's a scream king, and, you know, he's in all these movies. But I do remember that last act when Barbarian gets out of the
We've
basement.
had the big reveal of Mama. Yeah.
Yeah. When she gets out of the basement, it turned into like this weird, like,
Scooby-Doo episode.
almost. Yeah. And so, yeah, but I remember being really positive about that film, and especially, you know, first time filmmaker.
Yes.
Zach Cregger, had never heard of him before. And I also remember him being like kind of a breath of fresh air too. Like he kind of, when he was giving interviews back then, like he would kind of just like go off and like go on rants, and like he just didn't sound like your atypical, like, you know, Hollywood filmmaker at the time. But yeah, man, I remember that being a huge phenomenon. And
Yeah, Crager doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that we're gonna see in the Criterion Closet pulling off like, you know, a Tarkovsky film and
right,
giving some big grand explanation about it. Like he's gonna grab Videodrome and be
right.
like, "Fucking Cronenberg rips," you know, and just tell you
Yeah,
something real. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's a horror head. Um, I also remember, well, and then it goes to streaming early,
Mhm.
and yeah, it has like a second life on that, but it still is not on physical release. It is still just living in this stream, you know,
Like
this
purgatory.
yeah. And now he's even talking about it now with Weapons, because people have asked him, and he's like, yeah, you know, I've beat the drum, I've called the people I thought I needed to call, and,
Mhm.
you know, it's just not a thing that people want to do. So maybe hopefully Criterion could pick. I would love to own Barbarian. I would really want to own Weapons.
I'm trying to remember who the like number one producer, like who the, you know, like what company
I
was
can't remember.
behind
I know
Barbarian.
Weapons is
It's
WB.
WB, right? And so
Yeah,
that makes me think, coming off of, you know, the success of some of their bigger films here recently that have then gone to physical, that we should hopefully get a
yeah.
Blu-ray copy.
WB, what a year! Minecraft,
Can't stop.
Sinners,
Yeah.
Superman, Weapons. There was another one in there. I can't remember at the moment, but yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah.
everyone thought that studio was left for dead. And I think, I think Superman is like the only superhero IP, right? That has land or is in that lineup. But I believe it was like 6 movies that have made 40 million of
and have
more.
opened #1. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So good on WB, who got out of the I'm just so glad that they got out of the Zack Snyder business. I feel like that had
Mhm.
been such a burden on them for such a long time. And now, you get rid of that and look what you can do. You can give Ryan Coogler, enough money to go out and make a hit. You can give Zach Cregger to go out and make a hit.
Well, and when you
And then
think
you could also
about
have Superman.
absolutely, right? And when you think about the time, really kind of like the inflection point of when this stuff really probably changed for them, it had to be coming off of Barbie. And I think
Yeah.
Barbie's really probably the movie that saved that studio, as far as all of a sudden having the bankroll and the
Mm.
confidence to kind of give directors a blank check look, because this movie definitely feels like a blank check look. Sinners been talked about a lot as sort of a blank check type of movie. And so I think, we're still going to be tracing things back to the Barbie Oppenheimer summer for a long time, even though that's 2 years removed now, correct?
Yeah, that was 2023.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But I
Wow.
think we're still feeling the effects in a positive way
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
that. So yes, okay, Weapons. Weapons opens #1 at the domestic box office this past weekend with $42.5 million, playing on 3,200 screens, which is awesome because Disney also released Freakier Friday, the follow-up to Freaky Friday, this
Mm.
this weekend. That film made it like $27 million while playing on 700 more screens, I think. So just like
Wow.
a great weekend for the sickos. Like people really wanted to go out and see this movie. So that's
The theater I went to, the
yeah.
second time I saw it was a Cinemark, and Weapons was in an XD theater, and then straight across the hall, Freakier Friday was in the other XD theater,
Mm,
which is like their big, like, mini IMAX theaters. So, yeah, it's funny they were going head to head.
that's quite the double feature. I wonder how many people did that. And so the film has opened up to great critical response. It's at a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, an A- cinema score. The other horror films that have finally leveled out in like the A- range are things like Get Out, Silence of the Lambs. So we're talking about some pretty lofty comparisons here. And then it's at a 3.9 on Letterboxd, which is also very, very high. Now, I'm starting to feel a certain type of way about Letterboxd because after I watched this movie that I came in completely cold to, I write my review and then I want to go read some of the other reviews on there. And like, you have to scroll down to maybe the 4th or 5th top rated review for it to actually be
A movie review.
someone who sat down and wrote a movie review and not just make some joke about like, the kid's not listening because, like kids never listen to their teacher or something like that. And those are all like 5-star reviews. And so it feels a little bit trite when you're kind of like,
It's getting listen, and I
oh, we're
think the
both
first
part
time
of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm both part of it too. I've done this before, but I was noticing I was noticing this because last night I was kind of going through and looking for just like thoughts, and also like I was looking for low reviews to try
Yeah.
and see like what people how they were
Well,
feeling.
the most interesting thing is once you get past those first couple like real quippy, punchy jokes, the first like high rated, like the highest rated review that's actually a movie review is only a 3 out of 5-star review.
Right. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I have felt that Letterbox has been getting
A little gamey.
a little gamey. Yeah, a little like how many likes can I get on this review?
Right.
Um or this sentence. Uh but yeah, yeah, I felt that too. I also like if you rate something, and I know it's hard because like if you don't like something that is like really hitting on Letterbox,
Mhm.
right? Like most of the like low stars for this movie, at least the people who I follow, they'll just rate it like 2.5, and then they don't say anything.
Yeah,
And it's like,
that's
I
a
want to,
huge pet peeve.
I want to read what's bothering you with this film.
Absolutely agree. I'm
And
way more interested in a 3-paragraph, 3-star
totally.
review of this film than I am someone giving it 4.5 stars and not telling me why. Like, okay, that's just kind of consensus. That's cool. Good for you, you know? But like, if you have an opinion, or if you truly think, like, I give you credit because you gave it 5 stars,
Yeah.
and especially in your second review, you
Yeah.
really started to kind of go in it. Now, that's the other thing. I think you and I are in this interesting position because we want to save a lot of thoughts for this podcast,
Sure. Yeah.
and to not give too much away of like kind of how we're thinking. But I'm right there with you, where I'm kind of returning to how I think maybe we first both came to Letterboxd, which was like a really good opportunity to actually feel like you're writing a movie review, you know, and not doing something for clickbait or for the reason why you would maybe, you know, post something on your Instagram story. You know, trying not to treat Letterboxd like social media is is the hardest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, that it's going to happen with any service that's good and
Yeah.
gets big enough.
Which is very true. Gosh, yeah, I'm just yeah, that's the other thing too. Thinking about how far Letterboxd, the leaps and bounds that it has gained in popularity and its online following in the last couple of years is just wild. But great for them. Okay, so no real outline here. We did mention that this is going to be a spoiler heavy
Yes.
conversation. We
Has
don't
to be.
necessarily have to dive into the plot right away.
Mm.
You know, we've done this enough. We can kind of wade our way from the shallows into the deep end. So I'll start with this. What was your what was your point of reference coming into this movie? How much did you know? I'm talking cast, I'm talking storyline, all of that.
Mm.
Even like runtime. Like I went in completely blind. I didn't know how long this movie was going to be. I didn't know who was in this film besides Julia Garner. Literally didn't know Josh Brolin was in this movie until he came
Mm.
on screen, which was
Oh,
an awesome
what
feeling.
an amazing way to see that.
Yeah, I literally had no idea. And so that was great. Where were you at coming into this movie? And we
Um,
can talk about anticipation too, because, you know, I think we had both talked about this movie on previous episodes as far as being like something that we hoped really lived up to expectation.
well, you know, they did a great thing with this movie. I think the only trailer I saw was the teaser. And the teaser is like literally kind of like the beginning of the movie. Like it's just like the voiceover saying a bunch of kids disappeared, and then it's like a montage of kids running and Josh Brolin yelling and Julia Garner, you know, looking scared. Um, so that's all I really knew. I knew Brolin was in it. I knew Garner was in it. I knew, and I remember from that first teaser, the first thing that I felt from it was Carpenter. Like I
Mhm.
immediately was like, this feels, you know, vintage as far as like horror goes. It made me think of Carpenter, made me think of Poltergeist.
Yeah,
Um,
there's big Spielberg vibes in this movie.
oh my gosh, yeah, the suburban Spielberg just fucking inject it. And so after that, I stayed away from any other trailers. I did the classic Alex, you know,
Mhm.
plug the ears, cover the eyes, anytime it came on. And I was when I was in a theater. I do know that they did like a Blair Witch style marketing where they built a fake website
Oh,
that had like the case and case files and newspaper clippings and, you know, kind of like you know, not a fan website, but like if someone is obsessed with a crime, right? And like
mhm.
they
Listen, I'll
so
tell you this, we needed more people in this town to be obsessed with this crime.
I never went to that website, but again, I had heard about it, and again, that just like kind of like, you know, it's a little bit nostalgia bait, but like it's just like, okay, that's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool that a studio in 2025 is still willing to do that kind of marketing. And then also
what did you see around town down in LA? Was this a big billboard movie? Was this a bus stop movie?
it actually it wasn't crazy. Right now the biggest thing I'm seeing on billboards right now are the Emmy nomination. Like the TV has taken over the billboards down here. So like it's just like, all those shows saying how many Emmy nominations they've gotten. So I didn't see a ton of marketing. I saw a couple, I think. Well, that was like Saturday, I think, after I'd seen it. There are some posters on like, different street corners, but yeah, not a ton. And honestly, I feel like the release almost kind of snuck up on me too, right? Like I only, because I listened to other movie podcasts, I think I was aware that like, oh, it's
We're getting
next week.
close.
Yeah. But then also when the poster came out too, like again, it like feeds a feeling that you get when you think of 80s, 90s, 70s horror.
The poster has a great piece of iconography that I think is going to kind of live on. Like there's some great stills. This movie this movie would have crushed on Tumblr with all the silhouettes of the kids running down the street and stuff.
Yeah.
The big wide shots, 2 lawns on each side. Like it's just really, really well framed.
It looks like a Goosebumps cover, right? And the fact that it's art, and not just like big heads, photos of the actors. So yeah, I really didn't know a whole ton going in. I had no idea where it was going while I was watching it, which is great. I had no idea about the structure, that we were gonna go full Magnolia on this film. And I was anticipating it, but at the same time, it's not like Barbarian is like a top 5 movie from that year for me. So I don't know. I was excited because of the accoutrements, the setting of it was what really excited me.
Yeah, I mean, I was just completely cold. I knew like nothing outside of Julia Garner and just kind of what the log line was, that 17 kids go missing in the middle of the night and this town is kind of shaken. Now, I'm right there with you as far as not knowing how, and who knows, maybe it's time to go back and watch a trailer, but the one thing that I was most curious about was, is the movie going to give us the events leading up to that and then have the kids disappearing be like a big second act, third act bridge kind of reveal?
Sure.
Or are we going to be living in the aftermath basically? And for the most part, it's the latter. We do get to see a little bit in the third act once we arrive at Alex's story of life before the disappearance. And so I again didn't know that was going to be the plot, but I think I like that a lot, especially because we deviate away from narration at the very beginning of the movie, where I thought like, okay, I hope we don't just get kind of like spoon fed what's going to end up happening in this movie with this narration. That narration was cool. It's a little girl. It's kind of creepy, and sets the stage pretty well. It does do some things though, then that kind of built my expectation up in a certain way. And just because it ends up going another way doesn't mean it's a bad thing. But we can kind of start to talk about some of the characters now, because I really expected this movie to be like a Julia Garner movie, and you may as well. And now here's where we are getting kind of heavy into spoilers. And I ultimately think the movie would have been a very different movie. It would have been less fun, I think, and a little bit more serious if it just stayed with Julia Garner the whole time. But that first act, it does do the Barbarian thing where it does kind of bait and switch, especially when you don't know it's coming, that she's not really going to be like the protagonist of the film. She's not going to be the person that you're following around for an hour and 50 minutes. And so once you did realize that we had this different narrative structure at place, I mean, I was like, okay, cool, this is great. Where's it going to go? But in in looking back now, hindsight 2020, do you think that there could have been more Julia Garner? Do you think that we lose anything by giving it this Magnolia effect of storytelling?
I I don't think, for me personally, it doesn't lose anything, because I think just like Sinners earlier this year, like I was really into getting to know these characters in this town.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we don't even like get the Alex story, and there is no like, you know, third act turn into a
Mm-hmm.
supernatural horror movie, like I'm loving like bebopping around first with Julia Garner, then Josh Brolin, then Alden Elrich, then Austin Abrams. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's jumping around from
Benedict Wong. I gotta know
Benedict
how
Wong.
did your wig dar break the moment you saw him? Because that's the moment I saw his character. I think when they're at school during Julia Gardner's part is the first time you see him, when there's like
Yeah.
a big town hall meeting there. Basically, the very first thing I thought was Max is gonna go crazy for this. This is like Hall of Fame Wigdar action.
Listen, Benedict, yeah, and his hair changes throughout the movie too. But he's got a nice coif going.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
I don't know
you gotta,
how he
as a
came to be the
principal,
administrator of a school, though. Yeah, my
you got to
goodness.
keep up appearances.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you're right. If we just stay on Julia Garner, because during that sequence, when we're in the parent meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and we're meeting Benedict Wong's character, Josh Brolin has a moment where he stands up in that meeting, but they don't show him at
Yeah, it's
all.
only from behind.
And I remember being like, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, I'm disappointed that like we didn't, because in the trailer you see him stand up, which we see that shot from Josh Brolin's perspective
Yes, in
in
his
his
like
story.
story part. Yeah.
But I remember being like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed that looked like a really good like yelling Josh Brolin moment. I'm it's weird that we stayed in the wide here and
Mm-hmm.
we only saw the back of his head. Um, so yeah, when once we get to, because yeah, how even far in Julia Garner's story do we go? Do we go all the way to the gas station with her,
We
or we just go to when she
we don't
drops
go to the
off
gas station. We
Paul?
don't go to the gas station with her. We only see it after she drops off Paul. Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't see anything after that.
yeah, or is it Paul, or is it when she's getting her hair clipped?
Oh,
I think
Jesus.
I think
It's
it's I think it's
that.
the hair clipped.
It's
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Um,
Dude, top 3 moment of the movie
so
right there.
good, so good, so
Holy shit.
funny. This movie, it really, the tones are so impressive. How it is able to balance, and Barbarian was like this too. It's able to balance this like creepy, unsettling, goosebumpy feel,
Mhm.
but then also like this odd like comedy. And I think of when she's sitting in her car staking out the house, and like the mom comes out like a zombie or whatever, and like comes up to the car and then just like leaves. That, I think that's really funny. I think Brolin's got a couple moments where like, after his dream, he wakes up and he's
Wait,
just,
wait, wait. She comes out to the car and leaves? That's
well, she
she
comes out to like the driver's side window, right? She's
right.
like walking all weird,
Yes.
scissors.
And then
And then
yeah, yeah, yeah. She gets in the car. She doesn't leave.
yeah, she goes
Yeah.
around the car, but she
Okay.
like leaves
Yeah.
frame. And it,
But that I don't okay. That's really interesting to hear you say that you're like hyper entertained by that. I was as well, but because my skin was crawling, like
yeah,
that was such a scary moment. There's something that Crager does in this film a lot, which I love because this is like an old Lynchian, tried and true, um, like horror effect is to have people emerge from the darkness of a doorway and we get that a lot in this movie. And there's a great use of music in this film and the lack thereof. And so there's no score happening at this point when she is staking out this house that she has had a bad feeling about the entire time. I don't know why no one else in this town, this county, the FBI,
They went and checked it out.
two guys who still had donut crumbs on their suits went in and talked to some catatonic dad who's been picking his son up from school. I don't know that this school, they needed a social worker. They needed a communities and school site coordinator at this elementary school, because
they definitely did not have one.
The fact that nobody was like, oh yeah, Alex's dad hasn't been picking him up recently. He's been walking home. And then we meet dad, and dad's apparently just like had a stroke, and we don't need to like verify that or anything. I don't like those two detectives. But back to the mom coming out in the middle of the night. So scary. And then when she does leave that frame, and then you hear the back of the car door open, you see the car drop from the weight of her body getting in. I'm just like, I'm squirming in my seat. I don't know what's going to happen, because you're right. That is the last of the Julia Garner chapter until we see her again. But because of who we know Crager to be and what we know from Barbarian, you're like, we could see a decapitation right here. Like, we don't know what's going to happen.
And I will say it's funny because in that sequence, the door opening and just the darkness, and then her emerging is like really scary. But then when you watch her walk across the yard, people are laughing. In my theater's experience, in my theaters,
really,
people are laughing while she's walking, because she's walking funny.
She is, sure.
And then she gets up to the driver's side window and like just pauses there, and then again walks out of frame. And again, like, so there's laughter from that walk up to the car till she's out of frame. And then when the door opens, then the laughter stops.
Feel it. Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I think that's a perfect sequence to, say that's how the whole movie feels.
That embodies the film very well right there.
Yeah. It's just a great blend of these emotions going up and down, and like it your emotions are changing in that fast of a sequence that like, you're off kilter. And that's something I really, really love about this movie. Yeah. And, but there are other great moments, like the jump scare in the dream with Josh Brolin.
I mean, for as much as I was getting attached to the Julia Garner story and felt like not only had Crager started, because I watched a really interesting interview with him. I think it was like for Variety or something, where he said that he didn't really know where this story was going. And he just like, it started with the idea of what happens if a bunch of kids from the same class disappear. And he goes, okay, well then we have to have a teacher. So then he starts writing about the teacher. And I could really feel that in that first act with the Julia Garner part. And he's like, and then I just kind of arrived at the end. And I mean, that sounds inspiring. That sounds great. You in the film industry, you're probably like, that's fucking awesome, because you just go for it. I'm like, I feel like maybe you abandoned something really, really strong with not centering it around Julia Garner. However, what he does with Brolin, even though that character is a little bit more, it's funny because he's this like blue collar guy. He's a contractor. He's not, Tony Collette in Hereditary. He's not in, he's not, in 1660s Massachusetts processing his, his grief and his loss, and it's coming through in these horrific ways or whatever. Like, he's a dude wearing like a vest and some Levi's, and he's driving his pickup truck. But it did start to feel like, okay, he is more of this, like, now you've kind of like not reduced the story to just being like kind of like trauma porn, but I know this character, I know this archetype really well, and what he's going through, and sort of like the different allegories for, because I've seen this be compared as like, and who knows, I haven't heard Crager talk about this, but like or respond to this, I should say. But a lot of people are saying like, oh, this movie's an allegory for like how a town and how families react to like a school shooting or a mass shooting, and the loss of children in that sense, or the loss of young lives, I should say. And so I didn't necessarily like feel all of that with the Brolin character. All that being said, I think, the most scared. I think this movie is the most horror film during the Brolin segment because of those dream sequences.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it becomes this like, it's funny too because I think that there's a lot of David Fincher in this movie. Like the Julia Garner part starts out and feels to me a lot like Gone Girl.
Yeah.
And
I
she's
was
like,
in Panic Room too.
yeah,
Like the stuff's happening at the front
she's
door.
kinda like the Nick Dunn of this
Yeah.
world, where,
Yeah.
like, in Gone Girl, everyone suspects Ben Affleck has something to do with it. In this movie, everyone suspects that Julia Garner, as the classroom teacher to these 3rd graders, these 17 kids who have disappeared, she has something to do with it. And then the Brolin part feels more like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, where and it's procedural, and he's, like,
Detective.
trying to crack. Yeah,
Detective.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's trying to crack the code. And so that aspect, and then also the dream sequences, that's, I think, when I was like the most scared during the movie. And there's a great jump scare as well that you kind of mentioned. But I mean, those first 2 segments hit really hard out of the gate, and then we get a little silly. But I don't know, I love the Brolin stuff. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Brolin's fantastic. Some of the best stuff he's done. I mean, I can't remember the last time I didn't see him in purple makeup as Thanos
Right.
from the Marvel universe. So yeah, I mean, just some of his greats is probably since Inherent Vice.
It was so like the dream sequences they felt so, it sounds weird. They felt so real though, like the way you feel in a dream, with
Totally.
just like
He
these
captured
really
it
dark
so perfectly.
the dark shadows, kind of the way that the camera was moving is the way you sort of feel when you're like having an out of body experience
He
in a
knows
dream.
exactly where to go, right, in the dream.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no,
Yeah.
like, and the camera, the cinematography in this, I mean, the the way it moves and is constantly moving and
Mhm.
glides you through this story is just some great great execution.
Yeah.
And I've heard Crager talk about, like, you know, I decided that it needed to feel like you were in this perspective of whoever's story you were in. So putting a camera on someone's shoulder and just following them is
Mhm.
kind of how we had to do it. Like
Mhm.
there was no other way to bring those different perspectives to the surface without like making you feel like you are in the character that you are with.
So I've a very quick specific question related to the Brolin segment, and it's in his big dream sequence. How did you feel about the floating M4 above the house in the thunderclouds?
So that is the one part where I have no idea. I mean, I understand because he later in the movie he's like they're like weapons, but that is like the most abstract part of this movie.
I can tell you something, I kinda loved it, and there's some stuff
Yeah,
about this movie that I didn't really like. I loved that weird ass choice though.
so strange. And again, like very Lynch, right? Like just
Yeah.
obviously he's working within a dream, which Lynch is the master of doing that on screen.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's like the one thing where I'm sure it's got some other meaning, or maybe it doesn't, or it's just there to fuck with you. But like,
'Cause it says 217 then on it. It has the
right,
time of the
right,
disappearance.
yeah. I that's the one. I think that's the one thing I said to Kaylee as we were walking out. I was like, I think the gun thing, you don't even need it. It's
Yeah.
just like a cherry on top.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't think it changes really anything because it's there or if it's not there.
Mhm.
But I think it's cool. I think it's something like, maybe deeper for Crager that he wanted in there. Now, granted, I've also watched a couple interviews with him, and like he has said that like this isn't a metaphor for any, like, this movie is not a metaphor for anything. All it is a story about 17 kids who disappeared.
Well, that's refreshing to hear, and I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily think that this was him trying to have a take on it, but it just, again, kinda speaks to, the letterboxification of
Well, yeah,
people just
and
wanting to find, a traumatic reasoning for horrific events to be happening.
I think that is kind of a problem with modern horror, right? Like,
Right.
I just saw Together as well, and that movie is a metaphor that is for, toxic relationships, and that is its only idea, and it is shoving that idea at you through the whole runtime. And I love this movie way more because it is more about the plot on the page. We're not
Mhm.
trying, and it sparks conversations like this because that's what movies are supposed to do. That,
Mhm.
you are supposed to write a good story. It's not about trauma or a metaphor or an idea. It should be a good story. Um, and I think this movie is one of my favorite stories that I've seen. I think Eddington also really captured that too. Like, it is a story, and granted, he's kind of like, basing that in real life and like going to a time, but like, it's still, it's about the story. It's not about, some trauma metaphor thing. Whereas something like Bring Her Back, Together,
Yeah.
those movies are really just about trying to get across a message.
Okay, so then after we have the Julia Garner and Josh Brolin segments, this is where for me
Oh,
personally,
one more thing about the Josh Brolin, sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
yeah,
One more
go.
thing, the drums, the music, that is his, like, theme, like the dun 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 dun
Mhm.
dun, especially when they're leaving the school and he, like, goes off away from the crowd and, like, jumps in his car. The music is fantastic. It is so fucking good, and it's written by Cregger and 2 of his best friends who have
Mm,
had a band since they were, like, 16. And, like, again, just really, really good craftsmanship and uh, such confidence in knowing exactly what he wants the music to sound like, because obviously he's a musician. It's brilliant. Really, really good
that
stuff.
that also feels a little Spielbergian too, right? Like the
Mm.
same kind of like music cue or like a distinguished music cue when like kids are on their bike or something
Yeah.
is
Well, and
reoccurring.
speaking of spills, I mean, the opening montage, sorry, we're going backwards now. The
Mhm.
opening montage is the voiceover telling us about what has happened in this town, and then we play "Beware of Darkness" by George Harrison from his solo album, uh, and we see the montage of all 17 kids running out of their house at
Mhm.
night. And the first time I saw this, I started embarrassingly and openly weeping because, again, just like the combination of that song, the imagery that we're seeing with the kids running at night in this suburban town, like, I was just like, this was made for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, Kaylee had to, like, hit me and was like, "You're crying already?" And I'm like, this is like one of the most beautiful, like, sequences I've experienced. Like, it's so well done. And so to say this movie hooked me and got under my skin from that moment on, I was just like, we it doesn't really matter what happens. I'm in. I'm
Yeah.
100% in. Um, but yeah,
So
so
so now
after
remind me, do we go to Benedict Wong's principal character, or do we go to Paul, our
go to
deputy,
we go to
next?
Paul.
We
We
go
go to
Paul next.
Sad Sap Paul.
Okay. So part of me is still in during the Paul segment because I feel like there is information that we are discovering, that we're finding out, different puzzle pieces that are helping move along the first two segments. of the story. We're starting to figure out a little bit more about what the police are doing, what law enforcement's doing in this town, and we're also starting to see why this person was important to Julia Garner's story. The problem that I have is with the Paul story, however, is that by the time it makes its way back to the kids and the kids disappearing, I feel like we have had too much fun. We've had too much fun with the Paul character, and he's getting like pricked by needles and all this other stuff is happening with his personal life and this marriage that is just like going down the drain. And now this is this is maybe going to be his calling card. This is maybe going to be a pattern of Cregger's, because we saw it in Barbarian as well. But like in a way that Barbarian had such a great opening act, and then when we switch to Justin Long, it is just like a flash in the pan, and it's like so funny when that switch happens. This is a little bit more gradual and a little bit more, I wouldn't say subtle, but it's just not as stark. And so it was like a 5 to 10 minute kind of like cool down period that took a while then to like bring back to a simmer and eventually a boil. And so for me, I think that the movie, when we get away from Brolin and Gardner, and so this goes for the Paul character, and this goes for Benedict Wong's character, James.
Or no, James is the
James is the transient. Okay. Yeah. So his story too, though. So for all three of them, I just feel like our foot's off the gas a little bit, and the tension is just kind of let out of the room. And I get that that's intentional. We're trying to introduce more humor, but then again, this is where I just kind of go back to one of my original points, is like, I'm fine with this not having the Magnolia storytelling device.
Yeah. I really love this stuff, because it does kind of like make me forget that we're in a horror movie, and makes me want, hold on, it's hearing Blaine on my headset. It gets away from the horror stuff and makes me want to learn more about this town and the people who populate it. And
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a Stephen King kind of Derry atmosphere where I want that as well. But knowing that this is just like a contained film, I don't know. I don't think that there's the time for it.
Yeah. I get that, and I think it probably would have benefited from, because we go to, is it 7 different characters? Garner, Brolin, Eldritch, Abrams, Wong, 6 different characters. Alex.
Yeah.
So,
but then Auntie starts to feel like the 7th. Auntie is
it's really interesting. We never get her story.
We don't get a title card for her. Yeah,
don't get a title card for her. We don't get.
Well, let's save all that. Let's focus on our big 3 of role players here.
Yeah. So the cop stuff. I enjoyed it. I think it's, again, like we're doing some great stuff with car chasing and whatnot. We're having fun. You're right. It doesn't really play into the mystery of the children, other than like getting, Paul and James to the house.
Getting Paul and James to the house, and then seeing how Benedict Wong's character gets to the gas station, which is how the Brolin chapter ends.
I think the Wong stuff, I think that has to be in there. Because we end up seeing him, in the Brolin story at the gas station.
That only felt like, though, maybe like I agree we have to have it, but for it to be a full title card, and again, another like momentum shift, another momentum break, I'll even say, and for it to only really last like 15 minutes. And here's what I think it does too, in those like 15 to 20 minutes, is although there's a lot of mayhem in his part. And that's really the bridge that becomes sort of the bridge between the second and the third act. I also think it starts to spoil things for the third act for Alex's
Totally.
story that I really wish would have just been like kept closer to the vest until we were actually in that chapter of the story.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, the whole part or point of the wand story is to show the power of Aunt Gladys,
Yes.
right? And to introduce her, right? So it is a little strange that she's introduced in that story and not in Alex's story
Well,
altogether.
she is, but we've already seen her.
We
Because
have,
that's when Dad's like, your Aunt Gladys is coming to town, da da da. We find out all this stuff, but like we've already seen her.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So, and we've seen her from the wand story, right? Because we've seen
Right.
her in like flashes, and like
Yes.
Abrams sees her in a very like Pennywise the clown
Mhm.
moment in the woods.
Mhm.
But we don't know who that character is, other than like this really creepy lady that everyone seems to be imagining.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it is. I think you put the wand stuff in there because you want to show, because she's not going to kill the parents, right? She doesn't kill the parents, right? So you want to show her power, and after the Paul and the James stuff, you kind of do need some sort of rev up. So I think that's why she's introduced in the wand.
And I, if that's how he wanted to write it, then that's how he's going to write it. I think that the execution of it is it's more along the lines of that third act of Barbarian, though, when we're just getting like
Mm,
a head caved in by, repeated blows,
right.
like point blank. And then there's some other just like really goofy kind of funny stuff that feels like that third act of Barbarian as well, where we go back and we're all with like pastel colored painted houses and everyone's driving their like Thunderbirds and all that stuff. And it's like, here's these two guys and they have like 8 hot dogs for lunch and we're sitting down and we're watching, Planet Earth or whatever. And this is where like, if he's going to be cute and do the George Harrison thing at the beginning, I like that because that's a little bit more nuanced. When they're
Yeah,
watching the video of the ants being taken over by the parasitic, fungi, and it's
right.
basically like brain control. Again, I'm just like, okay, we're tripping over our own feet here right now. We're kind of like patting ourselves on the back a little bit too much. And I are like, and it's just, I know where the third act is going at this point,
Well,
right? Like I know now that we're under a spell and this is some sort of possession film
right.
and we're going to go supernatural. And now listen, I have no problem with them going supernatural. Um, and I don't know if we're quite ready to start talking about that yet, but that's just where like I do think that the principal part is the most important out of those 3 role playing narratives that we get. Because like I have so many questions about what is the school doing to find out more about this family? Like what is, when is CPS going to get called and when is a house visit going to be made? And so we get to see a little bit of that, still not as much for my liking, but again, it's fun and it's crazy, but it feels more like something out of, like Train to Busan than it does the beginning of this
Mm,
movie. Or
yeah.
the sadness is the one I should say, where we're just like vomiting this black goo into people's mouths. And it's just like,
Well,
we are,
that was a weird part too, because that never ever comes back.
yeah.
That was just like, oh, we have how much left of the budget? Let's vomit black goo on people.
Yeah.
Um, I would also say that Cregger does this in the Garner. He does it in the Garner portion too, right? I mean, he gives away the movie with what's written on her car.
Sure. But at that point, you're still in the dark about so much,
Right. Right. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a red herring there because after we see the red paint in Brolin's truck, you sort of just think, oh, okay, that's it. We figured out who did it. and
Right.
whatnot. And now, unless Julia Garner was actually going to be a witch at the end of it, then that would have been one thing. But you're right. I mean, that feels to me more like a breadcrumb than it does like lifting the entire curtain, though.
Right. I think I was thinking of the parasite stuff, because she's also teaching about parasites in her class, which we see, I think, next in the Alex story.
She's talking about like a tapeworm that eats your food from the inside or whatever tapeworms.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I agree that some of that, the Paul, the James, the Juan, because like if we take that out and we just have Garner, Brolin, Alex,
And Gladys.
and then Gladys, maybe, yeah, but see, I don't know, because I really also really love that even though we don't get an origin story for Gladys or like any backstory, other than like she is some distant aunt that the parents haven't seen in 15 years. She didn't come to their wedding, and she's very sick. Because the first time I'm watching this, I guess we have already seen the parents, and how they're acting, and by this time we have seen the kids in the basement, right? So we know where the kids are. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I still am not. The first time I watched it, I'm still not in the moment. I'm still not like I don't know. That it is and again, heavy spoilers, that it is a witch story, right? Like there is this witch who is possessed. And so when she shows up to Juan's office, and it's very long legs, where she is revealed, and she is like the kookiest looking person in the world. And it's totally out of, like, in a different movie than everyone else in this universe, in this world that we've created, that we're in, because it's very based in reality. Yeah, it's a whiplash. I think it's maybe designed to be like that. So you have to, I don't know. I was on board. I was on board during it.
Okay. So I have to do this now then. You've mentioned long legs. We're at the second to third act turn of the film. I'm going to read you something, okay? Okay. Man, I'm a huge fan of the way this looked, sounded, performed. It's voyeuristic by nature. The camera is in such interesting spaces, making us feel like we are spying on these characters. The tension for 2/3 of the movie really had me straight up searching the screen for clues. However, in the third act, the turn it takes for me does not work. A lot of tension is lost, and the stakes are personal yet lowered. There are some confusing plot holes that you could fall into. That is your 3-star review of Longlegs.
Yep.
Now, I'm not attacking. I'm genuinely very curious as to where you see the success of the third act of Weapons being more effective than the success of the third act of Longlegs.
I think first off, I think Weapons is much more pop, is much more exciting, has more energy.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that helps, and is much more digestible. Longlegs, I think, is a harder movie. It's just a harder movie to ingest. It's a harder movie to watch. It's a more challenging film than Weapons is. I think Weapons is, again, like,
Weapons is something you can have fun with from beginning to end.
I think Weapons is a great, we talk about this all the time, is a great gateway horror movie. Right? And it has a little bit more prestige than maybe most gateway horror movies, but it is more of a fun romp, where Longlegs is this very like methodical, challenging, slow burn. And so and 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 so when the turn happens, it's too much. It's too much of a whiplash. And yeah, it's too much of a whiplash than the world of weapons, I think.
So my thing for that would be that there are so many clues throughout the first 2 acts of Longlegs that this movie does have, that story is being told in a universe in which, like, there may be supernatural elements at play a little bit. You know, we're having visions of this demonic presence. We you know, Micah Monroe's character has like these psychic abilities, right? And so to me, I think that Longlegs does a really good job of kind of leaving these breadcrumbs that help make that transition smooth. And it's also it's basically just been from the law enforcement's perspective. It's only been from Micah Monroe's perspective, and so we've just spent a lot of time with her character. Whereas, you know, the magic, the reveal that there's magic at play in weapons, kind of just feels like it doesn't feel like as natural of like a unveil of the mystery. Like I don't know. Part of me was not expecting the movie to go this route, and not that I was expecting Longlegs to go that route either. And again, I'm a big fan of both, but and I was trying to find more reviews that people were maybe talking about this kind of stuff, because and maybe that's why maybe it just feels like more fun and kind of like par for the course in weapons, and in Longlegs it for a lot of people feels like they jump the shark sort of, even though Osgood's like a big possession guy. Again, like, I don't know, but anyways, yeah, I don't know why Longlegs got critiqued so heavy for like introducing magic at the end, where this movie does the exact same thing, like literally almost the exact same thing, where we're
Well,
like,
I
kids are
think
in the basement, you know, we have the man underneath the stairs or
right.
whatever he's referred to, and we're putting the magic into these like metal balls into these dolls, as opposed to, you know, this twig that breaks and then we can control people or whatever. There's just so many similarities, and honestly, I love them both. My problem is not with either film, it's more so with just the reception of why is this working in one movie when folks didn't think it really worked in the other movie.
I think also, I mean, the magic in Longlegs is introduced very early on, right? Because she is a psychic,
Yeah.
and so maybe, and so again, I think one of my biggest gripes with that movie is that, you know, she is a psychic through the movie, and then it turns out that the psychic officer did not know that the villain was living in her basement. And I think I take the psychic thing out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Longlegs probably, you know, doesn't get the reception maybe that it did. Even though it made a freaking
People
bajillion
love
dollars.
Longlegs.
People love
Like,
Longlegs. Yeah.
listen, Longlegs. Yeah, it's just one of those movies where when I rewatched it for the second time, I saw a lot of stuff, and I saw a lot of things in the script where Osgood is sort of like covering his ass, as
Right.
far as, you know, like when she calls home and she's like, "Mom, why did it take you so long to answer the phone?" Like, there are doubts, there are
Right.
reasons why she's suspicious of her mom and what her mom's doing, and the fact that she's become this hoarder, but she doesn't really want to like believe it yet. You know, like there's a
Right.
lot of nuance to Micah Monroe's character in that film, and she plays it so well. Um, and in this movie, when that turn happens, and like you were saying in your Long Legs review, that there's the plot holes. When I find out that these kids have just all ran to the same house, and we've established that like there's many different doors in the town that have ring cameras installed
Mhm.
on them, and that this footage has been pulled, and and we don't even discuss like traffic cameras, like
Well, it's just insane that like Brolin is the first one to pull out a map and like try and
yeah,
map where these
and
kids are running.
map where they've gone, and they've said that there's like dogs on the case, but there's these kids have ran through the woods and there's no like footprints that have been found. There's also a lot of ways that like I don't want to, because again, I still had a ton of fun with it, but I could do the same thing with weapons as far as being like these kids are just in this basement and no one knew about it.
Yeah, and I think maybe that goes back to why we have something like the Paul storyline perspective to show like how incompetent, and maybe this is a message about how incompetent law enforcement is.
Right. No, I definitely think
Because
that
even the
he's
chief seems kind of like a fucking
he,
dildo.
yeah, totally. He's very aloof, and I think that department is certainly made to look aloof. But
Totally.
again,
I mean,
when they tell us that like, well, the feds are doing this, well, they're doing
right,
this, and there's just these people that like we never see, we never meet an FBI agent, we never
right.
see, like that's almost where I would like maybe still keep Paul's character, but um, not that we needed to have like a special agent Dale Cooper roll into town Twin Peaks style, but like someone like that would definitely be in town watching all of this stuff.
Totally, totally. And it is a total like missed opportunity from Cregger, right? Like, and it's funny. We were talking about this yesterday off mic, and like, yeah, the fact that like no one has footage of these kids running to this one house at the end of the block, like that would surface.
Yeah.
Everyone in this town. Supposedly, this is a small enough town.
This wouldn't just be like national news. This would be like world news. And
Totally,
people would
totally.
be online and people would be sleuthing, and there would be like, I mean, you and I just watched, the One Night in Idaho documentary,
Mhm.
kind of together but separate, obviously, but like at the same time. And again, like this is a movie. We're here to have fun with this movie. But the first two acts are very grounded in reality. And so I have these standards that like
Right.
we need to be following some rules.
Well, and I think that's where he dips into like the Stephen King stuff of like it makes you feel like this is the only town in America.
For sure. And that the parent and that like the adults in this town can kind of not be trusted,
Right.
or they
Right.
they aren't really like paying attention to their kids. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gladys, all she needs is Aunt Gladys needs an object of someone's either personal belongings or something from their physical body.
Mhm.
And then she has this tree that she travels around with,
Yep.
and she grows this little tree, snaps off a branch. If she then pricks her finger with this thorny branch and grabs a bowl, there's some fun rules. Like it's all super, super fun the way that like she uses it to control and possess people. Another thing that I loved in Longlegs was sort of like the reveal that we get when the aspect ratio changes a little bit, and we get the voiceover from Alicia Witt, and she kind of tells us like, here's how the sausage was made. I want to know like the inside baseball to this witch lore,
Yeah.
because again, I love it. It's literally going back. Something that I thought of was like this is going back to like old school, very first time we've ever seen like a witch on screen, like fucking Snow White, right?
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
she's after youth and she's after immunity and she's trying to preserve her own life. And I love that. Like we love a good witch movie, right? So then it's almost like the movie to me is bookended by like, I wish we could have just like stuck with Julia Garner, seen more of her character arc. But then we get Brolin, and that's cool too. And I love that. Then this like kind of choppy, really fun, but sort of like convoluted middle. And then we get this end, the Alex segment, which like, although I think it was very predictable, kind of a critique, like, I saw this, this, the final shot, sure, you can say what you want about it, but like, I felt a happy ending coming for this movie. Um, and so we get that, and I'm okay with that, but I'm also still left wanting to know more about the occult and the rules of the supernatural and where we come from.
Yeah, I think again, I love that we don't get it, because I just think that's like respecting the audience to know, what she is when she shows up, right? When she starts.
Yes, I love all that, but like how is
But
like how is my guy in the woods seeing a vision of her if she doesn't
right.
have anything of his? Like maybe she does, but she doesn't at that point. So there's just like there's some fun stuff that's just there, I
Well,
think.
she shows up in Brolin's dream and in Garner's dream. She doesn't have anything of theirs either. So like
Yeah.
you're right. The rules are a little mushy, and because there is no backstory or explanation or what this tree is, or we're left to speculate. And I think that's good. That's good. I don't need an explanation for every single thing, and because it's just gonna encourage you and I to talk
Right.
about it.
Right. And part of it is like she has this power. She has this magic. And
Right.
I'm also okay with that.
But also, is she magic or is the tree magic? Because Alex does the same thing with
the
branch.
tree is magic, right?
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's like Melisandre in Game of Thrones. Like she
Right.
takes that necklace off and she like loses her power, right?
Right.
Like she's only the one, she's the conduit. She's kind of the one that can like harbor this ability and use it, and she's learned how. And again, then that leads me to like, okay, how did you learn how? You know, like where's
Well,
the school
maybe
for witches?
there's a prequel. There's a
Yeah,
prequel in there.
yeah. So I don't know. I that was a really, really fun third act, but again, like I think probably the last big scare for me, and there are moments in this movie where like I was so scared, like really, really great. Again, like no score, dark hallways. Is someone gonna walk out of this door frame?
Mhm.
Like really, really good stuff in that first 45 minutes to an hour. And I felt this with Barbarian too, and this is why Barbarian is just really palatable in a movie that almost anybody can watch, because you can just have so much fun then with like
Right.
the back half of it. It's the exact same story here with weapons. Um, I think that there is a great, like this could have been, and now if Longlegs doesn't go supernatural, and if Weapons doesn't go supernatural, I think in both these films there's a really great procedural
Prisoners
horror
style.
thriller mystery, Silence of the Lambs, Prisoners, however, like whatever you want to call, you know, the
Yeah.
comparisons that you want to make, but like there's something there. There's something really strong in both these films that we're talking about, that I wish, you know, and again, you're absolutely right, because this is great stuff for us to talk about, and it's great things to like want more of, and then maybe we see something in a movie 2 years from now and we're like, wow, that really kind of did like what Weapons did, or that really kind of did what Longlegs did, but like Weapons and Longlegs did it better because they did go supernatural and they didn't do this or
Mm.
that or the other. And so yeah, I don't know. I definitely want to see it for a second time so that I can kind of like have the knowledge going in that like this is going to take that turn in the second
Right.
act, because the second time I saw Longlegs after really like, or yeah, the second time I saw Longlegs, I liked it even more. I think
Right.
that the second time that I watch Weapons, I'm also going to like it
The
even
second
more.
time it flew by.
Yeah.
This is such a tight movie.
Hmm.
Um,
A
and
great year for 2-hour long run times,
yeah,
because we were talking about this with F1. We've talked about with a few other movies that like, don't be scared off by, because I think this has like a 129-minute run time.
yeah. And another thing I noticed on the second time was like, depending whose perspective you're in, things are different. Things
Hmm.
are like performances are different, dialogue is different, like little things.
Yeah.
Which again, just like it's a really great choice to do, because that does prolong
I
rewatchability.
was trying to notice that when Paul's walking into the bar and the way that Julia Garner gets up to go greet him and the way that she says like, Jesus, can I give you a hug or something? I think
Yeah.
that's kept the same, but that was something, I mean,
Something in Paul's part when
that Magnolia is like my favorite movie of all time next to Lost Highway. So when I'm like, okay, what are we going to hear or see that is different? I was trying to catch on in the moment.
Yeah, there's a specific part I noticed in the Paul part, after he has hit James and he wakes him up. He in the Paul perspective, he is very like, "Hey, buddy, I'm so sorry," and like he seems very empathetic. And he's like, "We're gonna get you up. We're gonna get you these handcuffs off you.
Yeah.
We wronged each other. All right,
Yeah.
ready up, 1, 2, 3." And that's when it like cuts. And then in the James perspective, he looks like the devil, and he's
Yeah.
like, I ever fucking see you around again, it's gonna be a different story. Get the fuck up."
Yeah.
Like, and that's a really interesting, like, choice to make in that moment, and how you think you're representing yourself, how someone else sees you or a cop or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's definitely moments of like, this is just gonna be a great one to keep diving into.
Mhm.
Um, and so we get through the Alex stuff, and also like the child actor in this, really great. Some really great stuff from him.
Yeah. I mean, it's really contained, right? He's not really asked to do a whole lot,
But
but
he's like,
that's a challenge
yeah, totally. And
to
he's
just like hold the screen. He has to hold the screen a lot.
totally, and he has to sit in silence a lot, and like,
Mhm.
and he and really embodied like a shy, timid, bullied kid. And like, I
And
think,
especially too, once we find out that he does know everything,
right,
it makes it all the more impressive.
yeah. But what did you think of like the final kill? Like, I the chase, the chase through the neighborhood, which
Mhm.
again, like lots of comedic moments through it, reminded
Yeah,
me so much of
like
the
28 days later.
no, the end of Substance,
Oh, yeah.
where that is so comedic and gross and gory and just like absurd
Yeah.
to a
I
to
mean,
a
I loved it. I was
yeah.
smiling ear to ear. Uh, I think a little bit, if I'm going to be at all cynical of it, it's because, like, it's coming. Like, it wasn't really like, it was a surprise how far Crager decided to take it, and the effects team took it, and that was awesome to see.
Mhm.
But again, there was no doubt in my mind from, like, the final 30 minutes on that, like, oh, the kids are gonna turn on Aunt Gladys, you know?
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, knew it was coming, but again, didn't know how far it was gonna go, and I think that that's gonna be those will be a lot of the still images and a lot of the things that you see on social media and stuff is like, the kids busting out of these windows, like, all of that was filmed. It was filmed really, really, um, like, that's what reminded me of 28 Days Later because it was filmed
Yeah.
really unique to the movie where we hadn't really seen anything like that yet. From in the movie Weapons, we saw them running, and there's kind of this, when you are under the possession, you do run in this certain way where your hands are kind of like, you're not Christ-like, but they're down. It they're down at like a 45-degree angle. It's not like a Naruto run, where you're
Mhm.
like geeking
Yeah.
out. But it's fun. Like, it was all really, really fun. And I agree with you. I mean, like, we're just so desensitized and honestly, like, here for it. Like, I'm totally here for it if you're gonna, like, rip someone's head apart at the jaw.
So
Um, just really fun. Like, so I thought that was great. And the sort of like epilogue, like, narration voiceover that we get at the end is nice because it puts a little bow on things, but it doesn't, like, tie it too tight
right.
where, we see that a lot of these kids still are damaged, and it's not like we need to be told that, oh, like, 10 years later, like Matthew or whatever Josh Brolin's son's name was, like they were building houses together. Like we don't need that. But you know, it was interesting that like Alex's dad is like too fucked up to ever come back. Like they did say that, like his parents are at another place and they're still eating soup. Like that was like a really funny part.
Alex went to live with a different aunt.
Yeah, this one
unbelievable. I would never be near an aunt again.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, the ending that and again, like the ending was just like a lot of fun, which that's just going to be my expectation going into Crager movies is that like they aren't going to be as like somber and as like pessimistic as maybe I would want them to be, especially based off of maybe what he's shown us in the first half of given movie of said movie. But like that's okay. Like if I want something that's like really deep and dark and depressing, like there's a million other ways where you know, a million other movies I can turn to as far as like not really having that happy ending. Like I think you said it really well. This is pop. This is like this is fun.
Yeah. This is again, like touches of Carpenter, touches of Spielberg, touches of, you know, PTA,
Fincher.
touches of Fincher, touches of Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is an amalgamation of just you know, probably his favorites.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm so jealous. I think it's a great movie and a fun watch.
I was trying to think if Alex makes his way onto the Alex movie character Mount Rushmore. I'll have to get back to you on that one, but it was fun. It was fun to have, you know, to be sitting there because that's not. I mean, and we've talked about this before, but like when you're in a movie and there's a character with your name and it's just being said repeatedly over and over and over, it almost just like perks you up a little bit more, and you are just kind of like, huh? Okay, so I don't know if this was hyperbole or not. I haven't checked to see if your list is updated or not, but where does this now rank? You know, we just kind of did our first half of 2025, which was really more like the first 7 months. Where's Weapons now for you, as far as your favorites of the year?
Well, so again, I saw this Saturday afternoon, like at 1:00 p.m. And then the next morning I got up and went to a 9:40 a.m. showing. The last time I did that was Nope. And so, yeah, this is my favorite movie of the year so far. It's overtook the #1 spot from Sinners, which again, like both of them are fucking fantastic. And we should be very happy that we have Zach Cregger and Ryan Coogler working with big studios, making big, like interesting, original horror movies. But yeah, man, this is the top of the heap right now. And you know, I think in that first review I put, which was just like a punchy one-liner, you know, like this is Max Core.
Yeah.
This suburban, you know, some sort of supernatural. We've got comedy in it. We've got great performances. Like if anything, a mystery going on. Yeah, it's great sound, great needle drops, great cinematography. The way the camera moves is just so exciting and engaging when you watch it.
Brolin's dream sequence felt a lot like Joaquin at the end of Eddington when he's in the middle of the street and the camera's just swinging around him. You know, I thought that was, and Julia Garner has a few moments like that too when she goes out into her yard after like the ding dong ditch has happened. Yeah, there's really good camera movement in this movie.
Yeah,
that we
well,
didn't really talk about.
he totally lifts when James runs out of Alex's house, and it's like that quick zoom in on the door. Like that is Boogie Nights. That's when Mark Wahlberg runs away from home. Like it. Yeah, there's just there's just a lot to really it's just juicy. It's just a juicy movie. So yeah, it's number one for me right now.
Well, I'm super happy for you. I have it in my top 10. It definitely popped into my top 10. I think it's right on the outside looking in, like maybe just behind something like Dangerous Animals in that top 5. Outside of that top 5, I can pull it up here real quick. Yeah, I have it at 6. Yeah, so just outside. I still have, it wasn't that long ago that we talked about this, but yeah, like,
tons of movies
but here's the thing too, like, I'll definitely watch Weapons. I know I'll watch Weapons more than I watch Sinners, and I have Sinners rated above it. And so that the rewatchability factor, and again, like I said, like second time through with Longlegs, liked it even more. I think the second time through with this, I'll like it even more. Yeah. And whereas like something like Sinners, I think like I'll still have, like that first half will still be awesome, but I'll still kind of feel like there was something left. And once I can just accept Weapons for, and not that I haven't already, that's the other tough thing, is that like a lot of my, like what's holding me back from calling this like a 4.5. I don't think I would go as high as 5, but like a 4.5 star movie is that I feel so strongly about Longlegs being really, really well executed and people not really appreciating it. Whereas this movie's getting so much love and so much appreciation. And this time I'm sort of on the fence of being like, there's plot holes to this though. And there's rules that aren't explained. And there's these other things that like we deviated from this tension that was so good. And so, yeah, I definitely need to rewatch it, and especially in theaters too. Like I want that theater experience again. And I'm sure this will still probably play to big crowds for another weekend. So hopefully I can find time to get back out, have that second experience with it.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to hear, how we continue to feel. And, to be totally fair, I've only seen Longlegs once.
Yeah.
I have yet to revisit it. So maybe that needs to go on my homework.
Because I think same thing, right? Like once you understand that, like, oh, this is gonna have a supernatural third act, you become more accepting of just the director's story, and then it gets back to like kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, honestly, when we were talking about your work right now, where like you want to see a director pull off their vision. And like, that's just how I felt so strongly that second time through with Longlegs, where I was just like, Osgood did exactly what he wanted to do with this movie. And again, I think like covered his own ass really, really well. There's no doubt, even at first blush, that like Crager did exactly what he wanted to do with this movie. And then it just comes to, then it just comes down to like, accepting some of the choppiness, finding the fun and the joy in those like more chaotic moments and the tonal shifts that occur during the movie. And it's not like they have to work for you. Like I know some of those things still just like won't work for me. But that's totally okay. Like they're all part of the pie.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, man. Wow.
We went like 90 minutes on one movie.
One movie. Now. When's the last time we did that?
That's a long time. That's a long time.
Go see Weapons.
Yes.
Go see Weapons.
Okay. One final thing here, and this doesn't need to go on for much longer, but like, does the title work for you? I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah.
And I do like when Brolin is like, they're like heat-seeking missiles. They're weaponized,
they're
like
weaponized, right? Yeah.
I do like that. I like that a lot. But I feel like it's going to be kind of a divisive title where like some people might just stay away from it, or they might think that it's something other than what it is, or they might think that it's like, what? Like, is this kids with guns? Like.
Right. Much like, I think also the assault rifle above the house.
Right.
I think that's also going to be divisive too, where it's like, because that ties into the title of Weapons. But yeah, I like it. I like it because, again, it's a kind of a red herring, right? Which this movie is full of. Yeah, I'm fine with the title.
I like it. I think it's really you like when a movie title is kind of provocative and a little and could spark some controversy. I like it.
What's the name? Did we ever find out the name of the elementary school?
It's somewhere because they have the vigil, the vigil, and the vigil has something where it's like, you know, like they have their own version of like Boston Strong or whatever, and it's like written right there. So yeah, it's
That's
there.
the only thing maybe I would change it to. I would change the title of the movie to the name of the school.
Name of the school, yeah.
It's just off the top of my head.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, and once again, just like such a funny movie to watch right before I'm about to go back to school, and I'm like, you know how fucking stoked a teacher would be if she had 17 kids out on one day until you find out they're all missing. But I'm like, wow, that's pretty great right there, actually.
It would be insane if that happened to Harbor. It'd be insane.
Oh yeah, that's wild. That would be, but again, I think also too, we are so prone to respond positively to stories like this, having grown up in a, you know, like kind of a picturesque, closed off little community where like you see so many movies and you think like, oh, towns like this don't really exist or whatever in America. And the fact that we kind of grew up in one where like kids could just run off in the middle of the night. Like that seems par for the course in what I grew up kind of thinking and understanding, and especially their relationship to reality and movies. Like this was really refreshing to see because it felt so familiar, like what we were saying with influences from all these different directors, but to see a story like this it's unique and it is original and fresh.
Yeah, totally.
All right, let's wrap it up. As for what's next here on the pod, Max and I will be returning to the New York Times Top 100 Films list, this time breaking down and analyzing the critics' Top 100 list of films from the 21st century. So that was a fun exercise a couple weeks ago. I think this will give us an opportunity to probably watch more movies in preparation for the list. The user one, you know, I think we were both like between 4 and 8 maybe, having not seen, so it all felt pretty familiar. There's a lot more inclusion of international films on this list. I think lesser seen films on this list. So that's at least what I'm anticipating kind of for next week's episode.
Yes, I hope to
find the time.
Find some time and fire up a couple of them. I got one more week on this job. We wrap next Sunday. So, but yeah, maybe we do an episode later in the week next week.
Awesome. All right. So until next time, follow Excuse the Intermission on Instagram and the two of us on Letterboxd to track those movies and read those quippy reviews that we're writing in between shows. And we will talk to you next time on ETI, where movies still matter.